Hello and welcome to Woman Power. My name is Lorna Grayling and today we are sitting here at Family Promise of Brevard. We're talking to Tara Pagliarini. She is the Executive Director of Family Promise of Brevard, 11 years now.
11 years.
And Justin Chaffiot. Justin, you are the Director of Communication and Impact at Remi Properties.
Yes.
So welcome and thank you so much for joining us. Homelessness, such an important topic. Tara, I'm going to start with you. How did you guys start with this facility? Let's start with that because, homelessness is just increasing every single day.
Every day.
On a higher than ever right now.
It is.
And this dream to make a difference is obviously what you were born for.
Yes. Yes.
But how did you guys even start this facility?
How do we even start? 11 years ago, I saw a job posting for a startup nonprofit that was going to end family homelessness. Mm-hmm. And I've always worked with vulnerable children and families in my work as a social worker, and it just felt like the right fit for me. But, you know, the goal of ending family homelessness, I mean, this is like impossible. How do you do that? Where do you even start? How do you even begin? And it really was just starting. And 11 years ago, it started with, well, the first thing that we need to do is to catch the families who have lost their homes. They're the most vulnerable. Mm-hmm. They're living in hotels, motels. They are doubled up with others. Maybe they're living in their cars or in tents. They're desperate. Mm-hmm. How do we help? Let's start there. Mm-hmm. And then over the years, we began kind of moving further upstream where we moved from shelter and then, wouldn't it be better if we kept families from ever coming down into shelter in the first place? What if we could preserve a family in their own home? Wouldn't that be better?
Yes.
And so it's that saying of at some point we have to stop dragging bodies out of the river. We have to go up river and find out why the bodies are falling in the first place.
That prevention, right? I know that you guys have a fabulous prevention program as well.
Yes.
That you're working on while working with the other families as well.
Yes.
So we'll talk about that as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Justin, welcome to you as well. You are a family man and you love families, and family is very important for you.
Of course.
Why is that? Why is family so important for you, and how did you get involved in Family Promise?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, to answer your first question, I think, I've always believed that if you want a flourishing community, then you have to start. The foundation of a flourishing community are healthy families. Always has been, that always will be. So if a family is struggling, physically, psychologically, economically, ideally all of us should get together and help, right? Alleviate that situation. But so that's always been in me, I think, but looking back on my own life, and all of us have made poor decisions and bad choices. I know I have. We all have.
No.
Yeah. We all have, right? But I think what really motivates me is that I had to come with the grips that, okay, well, my family situation isn't like other family situations. I had resources and, I was privileged enough to get out of some of those situations because of the poor choices I made, but not a lot of other families have those resources and, so I think that right there is that really opened my eyes to say, okay, we can get more involved,
Yes, and make a difference.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, if, it affects the whole community. whether we want to know it or not.
Right.
Families are homeless and people are struggling and suffering in the community, whether we know them or not. It affects the community.
Sure.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So we are turning a blind eye often because we don't want to get involved or, pretend not to see it, but it affects us.
Yeah.
You bring up such a good point that when we're trying to explain and kind of shift the narrative, when people think of homeless, they're thinking of a person that might be on the corner or living rough in some way or asking for money. And that's just not the case with families. They are working often 2 and 3 jobs. Kids are in school or in daycare. In fact, they are doing everything that your family's doing. It's just that at the end of the day, they don't necessarily have a stable or steady place to go. And so family homelessness, to me and to so many others, it really is a hidden pandemic because it could be your cashier at the grocery store, or it could be somebody that's a child that's sitting next to your child in school, and you just don't know because there's not and there shouldn't be a label on someone that this is what they're experiencing, because what we see, so many families feel shame in their experience when it's really, we're asking families to play a game that they can't win because there isn't housing available for households that earn less than $50,000. And so such a hard thing for a family to navigate. And that is one of the things that we see from families of that shame, that they shouldn't be carrying that burden. They didn't do anything wrong. They're working, they're taking care of their family. How do we help them? And that's what Family Promise is about. How do we help a family stabilize and elevate their opportunities so they're not needing us in the first place?
Yeah. You brought up something so interesting, and that's something I didn't know, but I know before we started the interview, you were saying that there is a huge shortage of affordable housing nationwide, but especially in Florida, since we're sitting here today. You were talking about numbers. How many houses are short?
We are currently 19,000 units shy of meeting the demand for families that are earning less than $50,000. If they're earning more than $70,000, there's enough housing. We here on the Space Coast, we're full of innovation and opportunity. We're the tech sector, the space sector. We're putting things into outer space. But for 50% of our community, they're cost burden. They're spending 50, sometimes up to 80% of their income on housing costs. So half of our community is able to find housing and flourishing, and half our community, like where we're sitting in zip code 32922, which is why we're here, 73% of families face housing instability. So how can we work better to elevate everyone in our community?
That is such a large number. I mean, $50,000 to $70,000 a year. That is oftentimes 2 incomes to get there, especially if it's 2 basic incomes, right?
Sure.
Unless you have real education and like a really high-paying job, one person can work. But other than that, you need 2 incomes at least just to get a very small basic house.
Sure.
That is not something that I knew.
And it's
really,
why...
I came from South Africa. We know unemployment and homelessness. It's just apparent everywhere. But I came to America and I just looked at everything. I thought, oh, it's just beautiful. Things look so great. Everybody's so privileged. And the longer I'm staying here, I'm just hearing of all these things that are real problems.
Yeah.
So when a family loses their home, like what is typically the things that they go through and that is so detrimental for that family? I mean, it is super stressful, number one. The fear, the anxiety, the PTSD, and then other things that go with it. Like what do these families have to do?
You think about any trauma that anyone goes through, kind of that loss. If they've lost a home, there is that sense of failure, the sense of not being able to care for their family. There's the loss of maybe their neighbors or even that school that the kids were going, they had friends that they were going to school with. it could be that along the way they've had to do things like sell the car or sell their belongings, and they've had to slowly kind of bring their household down to maybe what fits in a bag versus a home. And so that's why the work that we do is so strongly focused on how do we wrap someone in dignity during really one of the toughest times of their lives. Could be the toughest. I can't imagine anything more than a housing loss being just a trauma.
That's the place that you should be calling home. It's like your safe space. Life is stressful, work is stressful, and then it's beautiful to have that safe place to go to after everything. After the day is done and the dust is settled.
It's a necessity.
And get in your car and say, thank goodness I'm going home, right?
Yes.
And then imagine not having a home, or like on your way home knowing you're going to lose this home and your kids are going to be on the street, and the stress of that, it is just unthinkable.
It is. And for so many families, it's if they're in that stage of almost losing their home. That's why we're so focused on how can we help you preserve what you have? How do we help you hold on to that? How do we give you the time and space to put the pieces together? Because that's what's happening. There's things that are not adding up for that family, whether they've lost the house or they're at risk. Maybe they're not earning $70,000 a year. How do we then focus on elevating their education and training opportunities so that they can, for example, that's a big part of our work here at our new location in the firehouse that we're sitting in, is we have a classroom focused on education and training. How do we help someone go from $15 an hour to $25 an hour or more, something to build on?
That's wonderful.
How do we protect them? How do we help them create the future that they want for their family? We empower them. We don't do it for them. We just walk alongside. Our work here, I always think, if you think about a motorcycle and a sidecar, I always think we're the sidecar. The families, they're driving the motorcycle, but we're kind of pulling out the map and opening it up and saying, well, you're wanting to get here. How can this is how we would recommend. And they go, well, no, I want to go that way. Okay, if you went this way, you could. These are some roadblocks you might come against. But how do we ride alongside you as long as you need that? And then when you're ready, we want to celebrate with you that you made it to where you were heading and be part of that transition for that family. So.
Justin, and you guys, I know you. Isn't it it's beautiful, right? The problem is that they don't always listen, right? It's like kids. I'm often there to tell my kids, I want to be that sidecar for them, but they're teenagers. They just don't listen to me.
Yes, that's right.
I'm not there yet, but I will be with my two kiddos.
So is that some of the struggles that you guys endure, is kind of watching people make bad choices again? Or like, what is the hard part of your jobs? And yours as well, Jessica, because I know you guys are equally as involved in this project.
I know for us, we're very strong at the foundation of honoring someone's right to self-determination, because they're not children, they're adults making decisions that they believe are best for them and their family. And we may look and go, wow, I might not have done it that way, but we're not in their shoes and we didn't have their experiences. And so honoring someone's right to self-determination, it's hard sometimes because maybe we want to give advice or fix something or just make something better. But it really, the goal is for that family to have their own future without us. How do we set them up for success? It's by us not telling people what to do, because we have to, help grow someone's, I always call it like a toolkit. Everyone comes in life with a toolkit. I'm missing a lot of tools, by the way, but I'm always trying to build my toolkit so I can solve anything that comes my way. And so that's what we do for families. We're trying to help build their toolkit so they find the success that they need and that they deserve for their family and for their future generations. And so the work with Justin, we're helping to move families from some of our programming into housing that Remi Property owns, and we're working very closely around that relationship. And we're trying to pull up the map and help navigate it out, but ultimately it's the families making decisions. And you could take the approach of, hey, oh my gosh, maybe they didn't make it in that housing. Maybe it wasn't a fit. It's not like, oh, this is a failure. It's I always think it's like Braxton Hicks contractions. It prepares you for labor. You're not necessarily in labor. It's what's preparing. What we're doing right now might not be the thing. But it's helping to pave the way for the thing.
That's a great analogy.
All those pieces are like progressively towards what's going to empower someone to find the future they're looking for.
Absolutely. It's another opportunity. That's how I tend to look at it. It's like there's opportunities that just aren't available to certain demographics. So it may not be the ultimate solution, but maybe it's an opportunity to get to the ultimate solution. You know what I mean? So that's, I look at it like that.
You're with Remi Properties, so you guys build different types of properties. Is it units or what do you? Yeah,
we build apartment communities, and those the apartment communities differ pertaining on to what market we're interested in. But for here in Brevard County, more garden style, apartments is what we specialize in. So. Yeah.
And then you donate a certain portion of that to...
Yeah, so we synced up with Family Promise, I think back in 2017, and that was really just to kind of raise awareness of their mission to our residents and, some people we do business with and people we know, just say, hey, look at this great organization. But a couple years ago, we really wanted to level up our involvement with them and say, hey, maybe we can, create something that does have a little more impact, with their mission than what we're currently doing. So we do reserve right now 1 unit per community for a family working with Family Promise of Brevard for 3 years. So we reduce the market rate down to an affordable rate to alleviate that cost burden for the family. Then after the 36 months, when the family exits the program, they should be in a better position to absorb market, and then we can then put another family in to help.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's what we do.
That's wonderful. That's a great initiative, and it gives them that almost like dignity to be able to pay for something, so it's not being given, it's that whole process of working. Oh, I love that. That's a great idea.
It really,
we need more companies like yours to join.
It really spawned because of Family Promise, because they came up with the idea of a landlord engagement group. You and Mark were talking about that for a while, and I think at that time we were just trying to find other landlords, to come up with something. But in the meantime, as we're looking for other like-minded landlords, we could do this. And I think now we're trying to push this program, out there to other landlords. And it doesn't matter if you're in the market rate space or if you're in the affordable. Obviously, if you're in the affordable space, that's, a better solution for what Family Promise, is working with. But you can still do something in the market rate space because we're doing it. It works.
Exactly. What does it mean for you to be able to give back?
Tara and I have had these these conversations before, but I think that in my space, we have a tendency to look at our industry on a very numerical level. So when you look at operating statements, it's like, okay, they're not just numbers and they're not just units. Like, these are people. Like, these aren't just apartments, these are homes. So these are people and these are people's homes. So, so I think when we're doing something like this, it just brings a needed level of humanity like back into the industry. You know what I mean? It's like
it just leaves a new legacy, I feel, right? Like, you guys are leaving a beautiful legacy now for families that might have been broken up completely, and just because of this help,
Sure, it means the world. Absolutely, to offer some sort of solution to a family that's going through a really hard time. I mean. So.
Tara, I know you initially, when you were much younger, you were actually a horse rider, right?
Yes.
And you had this whole dream and life planned out in vision and a mission to be a professional horse rider.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that and how that fell apart.
So going kind of even further back, that I believe that each of us kind of has experiences as you grow that kind of imprint on you, kind of a question that you're always trying to answer. And for me, it's always been like, am I stable? My family, as we grew up, I had a lot of time with my parents broke up when I was very young, and I just went through a lot of my life trying to find my stability, find my way, and I was always looking for it. I was looking for stability, and riding was my outlet. That was my place, and I thought that was my dream and my future. And so I was making money, in that industry, and I went out on a Sunday afternoon to ride a horse that had been bucking, and I was trying to help the horse not buck because it had a young owner, and there's an old cowboy trick that horses don't like to back up. So if the horse is bucking, you stop them, you back them, and then you go forward. And it was just trying to change that behavior. And the last time I had stopped and backed this horse up, she reared up, and she reared up so high that we hit a tipping point where both she and I fell backwards together. And when she fell across my body in a way that immediately kind of crushed a couple bones in my back. And then as she wriggled to try to kind of free herself of me, because I was still kind of stuck under her, my right leg kind of pulled out of socket, like the way that it was. And so I just was left in the field, like feeling just in shock. I had, my back was burning because I knew something was wrong, and I couldn't move. I couldn't feel my right side, and I was just incredibly, I was just in shock for sure. But I had to get flown to shock trauma. They took me to Baltimore, and I was treated there. I just went through a long period of healing, like physically, emotionally, financially, because everything that I thought would be and who I was, just in a second, just changed. Yeah. And I so see that for the families we serve. And I was so thankful that, as I was growing up, my grandparents and neighbors were so prominent in my life that as soon as I was in the hospital and I needed a place for that recovery, both my grandparents and the neighbors stepped forward and said she can stay with us. And to have somebody where you're not worrying about where you're going to sleep or how you're going to eat or how you're going to put the pieces together. They weren't telling me how to do it. They were just allowing the process of healing to happen, so that I came out with a clear vision of now how is I going to go forward. And in all my years growing up, I thought I was so broken. I just felt very unstable and broken. And I realized that my life's calling was really to not only find stability, but now is how do I help others find stability? Others were there for me. Not everybody has that kind of network. How do I create that in the work that I do and the people I surround myself? How could we be those people? Because people need people.
Yes. That's phenomenal. And it's just beautiful that that story is helping you doing what you're doing now. It's just incredible how many, because you've changed about 13,000 families' lives. Yes. That is an incredible number.
It's a lot.
Wow. It's a lot. Do you ever look back at it and think, did you know that this is
incredible?
Right?
No, I think
one should sit and celebrate that, because the day-to-day struggles of building a place like this, finding the funding, going through what you're going through with each and every family, because you get close to them, I'm sure. You become part of their world in a way, and then, it must be draining in a way as well.
I keep thinking like, I didn't know this would happen, but then I think, since day one, I had this burning of going forward, of this vision of going upstream, of creating the space and the legacy. And so I want to say like, no, I didn't know, but then it's like I did know, because I I felt very called to do this, very called, very. I just felt like something had a hold of me. You know, the facility we're sitting in right now was a firehouse, and during the pandemic, the greatest number of calls that we had were coming from this area, and I turned to board members and said, we got to move to that zip code, and we need to do it now. Like, we need to go now. And we didn't have the money, and we didn't have the building. And it was like, well, why are you saying that? Did they give it to you? And I said, no, I don't have a firehouse. I go, but what if they did?
Wow.
What if they did?
It's just moving in faith, right?
Leap of faith.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I said to the board, I said, you know, I promise you, I know it sounds insane that we're going to like somehow convince the city to donate a firehouse to us, and that we're going to turn it into a life-saving service hub for families, and we're going to be able to come up with the $2 million that it's going to take to renovate it, because it's a 50-year-old building. I didn't have all those answers. I just had to walk blindly, knowing that I wasn't in charge of it. I just had to know that I had to just keep walking, walking forward. Yeah. And so that's so important. You just keep stepping forward. Keep going.
Don't stop.
Don't stop.
Yeah.
Don't wait for the money. Don't wait for the people to say yes. Just keep going.
Just go.
It'll what you need, you'll have what you need when you need it. It'll be there.
Exactly.
Like, I can't worry about that. I have to let that go. I have to worry about, like, let's build the programming that's going to
do what you can.
Do what I know to do.
And the rest will fall in place.
It will. And it did.
Tara, that is just beautiful. And the fact that we're sitting in this fire station now, you know, talking about this, you showed me through yesterday, and, you know, envisioning where the firefighters were sleeping and, you know, going down on their pole, and the fire trucks were lined up, and now the space that was saving families from fire is now literally saving families from the fire of destruction, right?
Yeah.
It is just so phenomenal, and just all because you guys walked in faith, and you know, have a
I just followed behind her
coming alongside you. But I mean, that's phenomenal. May there be more companies like yours, Justin, that can come aside and do that.
Yeah, well, we're going to be knocking on every single apartment community here in Brevard, I think. That's the plan, in some form or fashion, to adopt this program. You know, it's unbelievable. There's 732 apartment communities here in Brevard. So 732, yeah.
And so if each of them donate
reserve one unit, 732 families, in theory.
And already it will make such a difference.
Yeah.
Such a difference.
Yeah. Just if everybody can do that little bit, right?
Right.
Just a little bit. That is amazing.
It adds up.
Yeah, it does. It does. And what a legacy. And now these families can go out and be a difference as well. Pay that forward, and then it's just this whole positive thing. Before we were talking, you know, I had this idea of families and people that were maybe on the street, and, you know, wondering, like, how do they get there? Like, how does that happen, right? Are they on drugs? Are they too lazy to work? Or they, you know, people have this misconception completely. Sure. But it's absolutely not that. That can happen to any person. Absolutely anybody. Yeah. Someone in the family can pass away, or get, you know, something tragic can happen, and one income can just be lost, and all of a sudden you're out on the street. Yeah. No reason whatsoever.
Yeah, we've seen that in our own apartments. Yeah. You know, someone loses a spouse, or someone, you know, gets let go of a job, and then they can no longer afford rent. They got to move out. It's a heartbreaking thing, but
and then where do they go from?
Exactly, and that one event could spiral into homelessness and a bunch of other problems.
Yeah,
you know?
and it can spiral very quickly. Yeah, much quicker than we think. Like, who of us has got like thousands of dollars of savings in the bank for in case?
Right.
It just happens so quickly.
Yeah.
Well, you've opened my eyes, and hopefully we've opened the eyes of our viewers as well. Thank you very much for joining us today. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you, for sure, for the space, time and space.
Of course. Well, that is it from me, Lorna Grayling, and Woman Power. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe our shows on YouTube to allow us to make more episodes. And if you want to get in touch with Family Promise of Brevard, please check out the link on the show notes below. In the show notes, we will also have website links, so have a look out there. And until next week, goodbye.